All right, so this first question here is a multi-time frame question. So we can see, all right, our first condition is on a 5-minute chart, and we're comparing two EMAs, actually 3 EMAs, sorry, a 3, an 8, and a 50 EMA. We're comparing them to each other. Condition 2 is going to be on a 1-minute chart, and I'm assuming that the third and fourth condition is also on a 1-minute chart. So we have a second condition where we're looking for the 3 and the 18 to be above the 50. Third condition is we're comparing two MACDs to each other, right? So one has the standard, the typical, or the default settings here, so we'll call that the slow. And then we have a faster MACD here, right, with some much faster settings. And so we're looking for the faster MACD's signal line to be sloping up and above the slow MACD line. All right, so we can see on the screenshot here, we have the signal line in red here, and then we have a slower, let's see, let me just make sure, yeah, the faster signal line, and then we have a slower MACD line here. And so I kind of simplified my chart. We just have the fast signal line and the slower MACD line. All right, and then fourth condition is we're looking at the RSI 10 period, and we'll need that sloping up and above the 50 line there, right? And all those were for a buy. So I only mentioned the buy signal conditions there. So here's the RSI, and I put a line on there, all right, the dashed white line to mark the, let me just make that a little thinner, to mark the 50 value for the RSI. All right, so there you go. We have all of our components there, and so from that, we can get started. Wayne's correcting a little typo here. All right, thanks, Wayne. So, okay, so actually, guys, we have a little typo here. So this is so on the 5-minute, we have a 3 and an 8 EMA, and on the 1-minute, we have a 3 and an 8 EMA. So let's put that back. So there. All right. Okay, so there we go. So the gray line, right, that's going to be the 8 EMA, the little slower one, and then the white line will be the faster EMA there. Let's see, so I already have BloodHound on my chart, right? It's going to be the lower sub panel here, right? The lower panel there. So with BloodHound, to get BloodHound open, right, I'm going to click on the empty template button up here. I'm going to switch over to the logic tab, and we can start working on the logic board here. All right, and then the next thing is hit the new button. We need to hit the new button so that we can create a new logic template right here. Right? And let's see here. What should we call this? All right. So there we go. I'm not sure what to call this, so I just basically kind of put the 3 main indicators in there, and this kind of looks like I'm getting the impression that this is basically a trending signal type of system here, you know, as opposed to counter trend or something like that. All right, so let's see. Yeah, so this is a multi-time frame. So let's go ahead and get this 5-minute time frame into BloodHound, and as you can see, this is running on the 1-minute chart. So just a little side note here: the way NinjaTrader operates is that you want it's much easier to get things to work if your BloodHound is on this fastest time frame or the smallest time frame. So BloodHound is on the 1-minute chart. Right. So you know, if you put BloodHound on the 5-minute chart and then you're looking down to the 1-minute chart, you're just going to miss a lot of information on the 1-minute chart. and that's just the underlying way that NinjaTrader operates. So just keep that in mind, guys, that basically you want BloodHound to be on the fastest time frame, and then you want to look up to higher time frames or slower time frames. So to get the 5-minute chart on there, let's go to the Solvers tab, and we're going to hit the chart button here, right? And that's how you add other chart time frames to BloodHound. And we just need to go over here and change this to a 5-minute, right? So so the chart defaults to minute charts here, but there are all of the other time frames in here. Even if you have custom bars installed, right? So there's the Unirenko. Let's see. Yeah, I've got some reversal bar, whatever those are, in here. Range bar, no gap, right? And then of course the shark indicator custom bars in here as well. So, all right, let me get this back on the 1 minute time frame. There we go. 1 minute, 5 minutes. So there we go. There's a 5-minute time frame. So the default time frame, that always equals whatever the chart is, right? So whatever chart BloodHound is running on, that is always the default time frame. All right, so now that we added a chart to BloodHound here, we can see that it's telling us we need to basically reload the chart, and this is so that NinjaTrader will build the 5-minute time frame for BloodHound to work with. So let's just do a reload and F5. All right, pretty simple. We'll open this back up, and so now we can start building here. So we want to make sure that the 3 and the 8 EMA are above the 50 EMA there. So that's going to be a comparison solver. And actually, you know what? I am missing an EMA. So let me just throw that on the chart real quick. Okay, there we go. There's our 50 EMA in red. So, all right, let's get BloodHound back open. Yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to compare the 3 EMA to the 50 EMA, right? And see, is the 3 EMA above or below the 50? And then we're going to do another comparison comparing the 8 EMA to the 50 EMA and see if they're above or below each other. So to do that, and this is on the 5-minute chart. So to do that, right, I'm going to go to the solver nodes, and you'll notice I have a default time frame and a 5-minute time frame. All right, so I can create new solvers on any one of these time frames here. So let's go to the 5-minute time frame, and let's grab a comparison solver, and it's going to operate on the 5-minute time frame there. There we go. Click that on there, and as you can see, it says 5-minute right above the solver. So that's how you know that this solver is working on the 5-minute time frame. So let's connect that up. All right, so we're comparing the EMA 3 to the EMA 50. So input A, that will be our EMA 3. Let's go find that. There we go, EMA. And let's change the 3 period. And we're done. Simple enough. And then input B, that'll be our EMA 50. So we're just going to repeat this process. There's the EMA down there. So I'm just double clicking, in case you guys are wondering. I'm double clicking, or you can use the add button, whatever you like there. And change it to a 50 period. And there we go. So we are now seeing the EMA 3 and 50 on a 5-minute chart here. And if we look, right, it makes a little sense here. So you'll notice that we're going to go from long, right, here, actually, let's stretch this out. So you notice that, right, so that on the 1-minute chart, right, the 3 EMA is already below the 50. So it makes a little sense that on the 5-minute chart, right, it takes a little longer before the 3 EMA goes below the 50 EMA, right? So here, where it's green, we have a long output. That means the 3 EMA is above the 50 on the 5-minute chart. And so right here, this dividing line from green to red is where on the 5-minute chart, the 3 EMA crossed below the 50 EMA. Okay, so there's that. There's that comparison. And so next we need to compare the 8 EMA to the 50 EMA. And I'm going to take a little shortcut. So I can go back over to our solvers tab and I can make a copy of this solver here. So let's make a copy of it. And then I can just edit the name and then also edit the indicator period. So instead of a 3 period, let's put in an 8 period. And so here is our EMA 8 compared to the EMA 50 there, right? So there we go. Now I can go back over to the logic tab, go to my solver nodes and existing nodes, and I need to go to the 5-minute time frame for my existing nodes, and there is that new comparison solver that I just made right there. So let's drop that on the board, connect that up, and there we go. And as you would expect, right, the 8 EMA is going to be a little slower crossing the 50. And so if I look at these two, right, we can see that where it goes from long to short, right, there's a little difference there in the, little difference in the EMA 3 versus the EMA 8. So, all right, next we can now combine these together into an AND node. And there you go. So that is condition number 1 on the 5-minute chart. So, right, so when both the 3 and the 8 EMA are above the 50, right, we're going to get this long output. And then when both of those are below the 50, we're going to get this short. And of course, this in between is when the 3 and the 8 are kind of mixed, right? One's above the 50 and one's below the 50. So there's kind of a no man's land kind of trend condition there. All right, so next we need to do the same thing for the 1-minute chart. And again, I can take some shortcuts here. So I can go back to the solvers tab and I can make a copy of both of these solvers. Right, so now I have a copy of both, but they're on the 5-minute time frame. So what I can do is select that and hit the up button, and you can see it moves it onto the default time frame. Right, so let me select this other one. I'm going to move it up, and there we go. So now I have the same conditions, right, on the 1-minute chart. So remember the default time frame here is the 1-minute chart that BloodHound's running on. So now I can go to the logic tab, go to my solvers, existing nodes, and now the default time frame also has, right, a set of these comparison solvers. So let's drop those onto the board, right? And there we go. Here, and do that. And if I want to just take a look, and there we go. So yeah, like right here, right, where there's no output, well, that's because the 3 EMA went below the 50, right? So we have a mix match of conditions here. So, and right here on this one bar that has a short, right, we can see our 8 EMA just barely dipped below the 50, just for one bar, and then it went back up. So, all right, so there we go. Now, it's probably logical to think that, oh, okay, so now you just take both of these AND nodes into another AND node. Right? But when it comes to, AND logic like this, when you have two AND nodes going into this same AND node, really that's doing the same thing as just using one AND node. So that logic is the same. So it's probably just a little more streamlined just to use one AND node there. So there you go. So there is condition 1 and 2. Right, so that's our first and second condition there, all together. And we'll just take a quick look here. And yeah, there we go. All right, so we definitely have a lot of kind of consolidation or mismatch, right, between those two different time frames and trending states there. So, all right, so there's that part. So next, let's move on to our third condition, which is the 2 MACDs. So, right, so again, this has multiple conditions. All right, yeah, so we're looking for the faster MACD signal line, which again is in red here, and to be, so we need the MACD sloping up. So we need the signal line sloping up, but also to be above the slower MACD line. Here, let's do this. We'll stretch this out temporarily. Right, so we need our signal line sloping up and above the slower MACD line and above the 0 line. So actually we have 3 conditions. Sorry. Yeah, so we're looking for sloping, and then we're looking for, above or below condition, and then we're also looking for a threshold condition. So we'll make sure the indicator is above the 0 threshold level there. So 3 conditions there. So let's move this up out of the way temporarily. All right, so let's see, signal line sloping up. So let's take care of that one first. So we're going to grab, this is all going to be on the 1 minute chart. So this will be our default time frame, right? So let's grab a slope solver, connect that in, and let's see, this is the faster. All right, so there. All right, so this is the fast MACD signal line. So for the input, let's switch that over to our faster MACD. So remember, our faster MACD here is using 5, 15, and 1 for the settings. Let's set that up. Okay, so that's our settings. And next we need to select the signal line, which NinjaTrader calls it the average, which technically, mathematically, that's what the signal line is. It's an average. So there we go. So the average is the signal line. Click OK. And there we go. Yep. So when the signal line is sloping up, we have a long output. And actually we can see here, we do have 1 bar where that signal line just barely slopes down, just a tad bit for 1 bar, and then it continues sloping back up like so. There. Okay, there's that. That's the fast signal line sloping up. Let's see, and we need it to be above the slower MACD line, right? So there we go. So we need to make sure that it is above the slower MACD line. So that is a comparison, right? We're going to compare the signal line to the slower MACD line and see if it's above or below, just like what we did with all these EMAs over here using the comparison solver. So let's grab a new solver on the default time frame, and there's our comparison solver. So we'll grab that, drop it down here, and let's connect it up. And so let's give this a name. Okay, there we go. And now let's just fill in or put the appropriate inputs in here. So input A, there's our MACD, and this is the faster one. And again, this is the signal line. So select the signal line plot, and then input B. There's our MACD. And so the slower one is just using the default MACD settings here. Yeah, so there we go, using the default ones. So, and then the MACD line is already selected because it's on the top of the list here, so it's already selected for us, so we're good to go. And there we have it. Let's take a look. Yeah. So when our signal line is above the MACD, we're getting a long output. And then if our signal line goes below, right, we're getting a short output. So, okay. So that is the above the slower MACD, right? So it's the fast signal line above the slower MACD line. Now we need them, well, actually, yeah, so it's not specifically spelled out here, Wayne, so maybe you might want to fill me in here, but we know that something needs to be above the zero line. So I don't know if both the signal line and the MACD line need to be above the zero line, or maybe just the signal line needs to be above zero. You know, so is it both above zero or just the signal line above zero? So Wayne, if you want to fill that in for me, and then we can get that clarified. And let's get rid of that. So in the meantime, we'll at least set up a solver here to make sure that the fast signal line, right, is above the zero line there. So to do that, again, we're going to go to the default time frame because everything is on the 1 minute chart now, and we're going to grab a threshold solver to do this, right? Because the zero line is a threshold value, right? We want the MACD to be above the zero threshold level. So, all right, let's see here. Okay, Wayne just says the signal line. Okay. Okay, so there's a name for our solver, and let's get this connected up. There we go. Let's get that connected up there. Okay, so our input here is going to be that fast signal line. There's our MACD, and let's put the fast settings in there. And select our signal line again there, right? There we go. And again, our threshold level is the zero value, or the zero line. And let's see, okay, yeah, I do have that gray line there. Yeah, that gray line is our zero line. Let me just kind of beef this up a little bit. Here. Yeah, there we go. All right, so there's our zero line there. All right, let's get BloodHound back opened. There we go. Go back into our solver. So, our threshold solver, defaults to the zero value there. So all we need to do is just plug in the outputs that we want, there and that. All right, so let's kind of scroll through this. So this is just the signal line here, right? The red line. So we can see when the red line is above the zero value, right? It's a long output. If it's below it, a short output, right? So there we go. We can see that signal line, crisscrossing the zero value and switching from long to short to long to short. So, all right, there's that. And so let me just double check all this stuff again. All right, yeah, so we can just to take a look here, right? So condition 3 is all of these solvers together, right? So our third condition, right, is basically all of these conditions together, right? So we have the sloping condition, you know, the signal line above the MACD line and also above the 0 line. So that's all 3 of those conditions together. So let's take a look. So yeah, here we go, right? So we have the signal line above the MACD line. The signal line is sloping up, and the signal line is above 0, right? So that's all 3 conditions together. So when you see this long output, right, that's all 3 conditions met. And then we have the opposite here, right? So now, so if the signal line is below 0 and it's sloping down and it's below the slower MACD line, there we go. All 3 conditions met together. So cool. All right, so that's just a look at that. And you know, as demonstrated earlier, you know, we don't need to connect, put another MACD, or we don't need another AND node to connect these 2 AND nodes together, right? It's just, we can just disconnect that and connect all these solvers into our main AND node there so far. And let's see what we have so far. All right, so we have 3 conditions, right? So that's the first, second, and third conditions right there that we're seeing. So we just need to get this 4th condition created. So the RSI needs to be sloping up and above the 50 line, right, for a long situation. So let's now switch to the RSI indicator there, and we'll squish up the MACD for temporarily and stretch this out. All right, let's do the sloping condition here. So again, our 4th condition is actually multiple conditions together, right? So we're looking for a sloping condition and a threshold condition, right? So we need the indicator above or below the 50 line, right? So 2 conditions there. So let's grab a slope solver so we can do the sloping condition. There you go, RSI 50 slope. And let's change our input. All right, there's our RSI. And let's see here. This is the 10 period RSI. And so the RSI is already selected for us, so we're good to go. Let's click OK. And there we go, we're done. Pretty straightforward, right? So there's our RSI sloping up and RSI sloping down. And now we need, so that was the sloping. So now we need to check if the RSI is above or below the 50 threshold value. Right. So let's grab a threshold solver. There we go. Connect that in. Let's give this a name. Okay, there we go. And let's plug in the RSI indicator there and change our period to 10. All right, RSIs are excuse me, RSI is already selected. And now we need to put in a 50 value. So we're going to change all of these to 50 to get this to work. And so now when you look at the long output, you can see it says greater than 50, right? That's what we want, greater than 50. So, and for short output, less than 50, right? Set that to 1. Bingo. There we go. Okay, and so if we wanted to test just our fourth condition, we can connect these up like so. And yeah, there we go. So our RSI is above the 50 level and sloping up. And here the RSI is below 50 and sloping down. So and then once again, we can get rid of this AND node, and everything simply goes into one big AND node like so. Connect that up, and there we have it. All right, let's close this, and let's expand this out, and we'll just verify everything, make sure everything looks correct. All right, so we have the 3 and the 8 EMA below the 50 EMA. Our signal line is below the zero line and below the slow MACD, and it is sloping down. And then the RSI is below 50 and sloping down. And there we have it. And here we go. Here's a bunch of others. So as you can see, basically these are all kind of trending conditions. So this isn't going to provide discrete signals, right? It's just telling you when all of your indicators are matching, all of those conditions. So it's not providing discrete signals because there really isn't any kind of discrete condition that happens like only once in a great while, right? So you could have, so you're going to have the faster EMAs below the slower one for a long, long time, and same thing with the MACD. You could have the signal line, sloping down and below the slower MACD for a long, long time. And same with the RSI, right? You can have the RSI sloping down and below the 50 for, many bars in a row here. So this isn't generating any kind of discrete signals, but it's telling you when all the conditions are being met there. So, okay, there we have it.